right, Dr. Brandie here with another episode of Pregnancy Pain Sucks. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about the predictability of your second, third, and fourth pregnancy going wrong, having you screaming like the Scream thing with Van Gogh. I want to talk about the predictability of that. I want to talk about how we can normalize something that people act shocked by. It's common. Again, it's not normal, but it happens so much that I want to shout it from the rooftops that you should not be surprised if your second pregnancy goes awry. And we've gone over the reasons why that's happened. But what if you're already in it? What if you are on the struggle bus and you're like, what the hell is happening? Got interviewed yesterday by a mainline parent for an article that's coming out about me and my practice. And they asked an awesome question, which is, when should pregnant women actually seek care with their pains, with their pregnancy, all of that? And one of the things that I was talking about is I can't tell you how many women that come in about 6 months and they're debilitated. They're wrecked. And when I ask them, how long have you been struggling or suffering? They're like, well, I started feeling around 4 months. And I'm like, what the hell? This is not normal. This is not something that, like, they're almost in denial of like that it's happening. They're like, it's too early. Can't be happening. Can't be happening. Just like your kid getting teeth at 3 months when you're breastfeeding. It's not happening, but it is happening. And then they start resorting to stuff that they think is safe or they think that feels good. And we've gone over a number of times in my courses on social media. They start using heat. They'll have one night where they come home after they've worked a double shift and they slap a heat pack. And worse, they'll actually sleep with a heating pad. And they'll do this for a couple nights in a row, and they don't put 2 and 2 together, that now they're in 9 out of 10 pain, or they're in 8 out of 10 pain. They just think it's getting worse, and they don't understand they're literally throwing gasoline on a fire. Please don't come at me with research where you tell me that heat is good for you and bad for you. I already know about all the research. I'm telling you that if you have done this and you're in so much more pain, I'm telling you it's the heat. So you need to switch to some ice. But if that's not the case, if you're not doing that, be honest if you are, but if you aren't doing that legitimately and it seems to be getting worse, when do you call in a chiropractor? It's sooner the better. And it's not something that a lot of people will get pregnant and they're like, I'm going to go to the chiropractor. That would be somebody that the only way I would really hammer that home if they really need some care is if they're under the gun with, in terms of like getting ready for a VBAC. There's a lot that you need to do. Typically, if you don't have any pain, if you're feeling good, you don't need to go to a chiropractor a tremendous amount of time throughout your pregnancy unless you're really struggling. It's good to go in for some periodic maintenance to make sure that the joints are moving. I typically see people weekly in the 3rd trimester just because it's so hard on your body. I like to mitigate a lot of that stress, a lot of those trigger points, keep them moving, keep them flexible, keep their SI joints moving. But if you don't have a chiropractor, what do you do? Well, my friends, that's why I built some courses. So let me give you some of the tips that are in those courses or what's in the courses. Just like an athlete, it's really important to start approaching these structures with some methods instead of just slapping some heat on it or using some device you got off of Amazon or taking some medicine that was in your pantry that you might be expired. Let's talk about what you can actually do. So typically what I see in practice where women go wrong, where they're not taking care of themselves, is they're too sedentary. If you work a 9-to-5 job, work from home, I bought this chair for $5 on Facebook Marketplace. I did that intentionally so I would not sit here a lot. I used to sit at my desk for 12 hours to 16 hours a day. I would just sit here and not get up. I want to sit here, do some work, and move on throughout my day. More painful will be that chair. If you're sitting in one of those chairs and you have back pain, I can't help you. But you need to make sure that you have a decent chair that you're sitting in. You need to make sure that you're taking frequent breaks. That's the second thing. If you are work from home, it is unnatural for your body to sit at a desk for 8 hours a day. Just, you're going to turn into the Tin Man. Hats off to all of you who do that. But you can invest in a standing desk. You can go to a chiropractor and have them write a prescription. You go to a physical therapist, have them write a prescription for a standing desk. Alternate, change it up, sits for a little bit, stand for a little bit. If you're sitting here and you're having lower body issues, one thing you can invest in is a little stool underneath your seat, right on the floor, to put your legs at a different angle. Because if you're at the wrong angle, that can activate or inhibit your psoas muscles. If I sit like this all the time, my hip flexors, I'm going to stand up for those of you who are on visual. I'm going to stand up. These right here are hip flexors. They insert up here in your upper lumbar region and tack onto your hips. So if you sit here 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for the last 7 years, my ligaments are going to be shortened. They're going to be inactive. They're going to be inactivated. They're not going to be working. So you need to move. Treadmills or desks with treadmills on are very popular. I never could master that. I fell on my face a couple times. I do not advocate that when you're pregnant because your balance is already screwed up. But set a timer. Go outside. Today's like 50 degrees in Pennsylvania, and it's a little chilly for me. But at the same time, walk around your house. Do some squats, move your body so that it doesn't, as I said, turn into the Tin Man. The last thing that you can do is to really invest in some accoutrements, such as a really nice ice pack. Popsicles, if you're having pubic pain, you really need, or bourbon blocks, I've said that before, make a great freezing to bring a chill to Lady Town. These are some simple things that you can do. But again, the things that are probably making you worse are going to require work. It's going to require switching out of heat and trying ice for a couple days. If your bed is causing you pain, start using some of the pillow setups that I've referenced on my social media if you want to check that out. The last thing, as I said, is some accoutrements, such as a really great ice pack, some tennis balls. I have a tennis ball on the floor because of the dogs in here. You can work out some of the knots in your back. I have all those instructions in my course, which is extremely safe. I teach you pubic work. I teach you lower back work. Let's go over the resources available by someone who has been doing this for 24 years, that went an extra year in school, that has served as a paramedic. Like, I'm very well-rounded in my approach. This book has been vetted by the OBGYNs that I'm friends with locally to make sure that the information is safe. This is my flagship book. I wrote this in 2018. It's called What You Don't Expect When You're Expecting. It was republished in 2021 because I didn't include in it sexual and gender identity, which is extremely important when talking about pregnancy to feel represented. It also has additional resources, which are so important. I'm going to be talking on a podcast coming up about workplace rights and disability and short-term disability. That was written by a friend of mine who's an employment lawyer, wrote a chapter in here to help empower you. So you've got the books. This is What You Don't Expect When You're Expecting. It's on Amazon. The second book that you have available to you, if you have a partner that's really on board, or if they're not on board. The reason I wrote this is because I had a partner that was not on board, and it was traumatizing, honestly. So I interviewed a lot of men. I co-wrote it with Leslie Clearwater, who has one of the best men on this planet, Seth. Shout out to Seth. But this is helpful if there's a partner, not assuming it's a guy, but if you have a partner that wants to learn how to help you. This is how you help yourself. It has a little bit in here for partners, but I really dove deeper with this. So this is called What Your Partner Doesn't Expect When You're Expecting, and How to Help. This talks a lot about the dynamics of relationships in terms of weaponizing competence, the way to actually help in the delivery room, leading up to delivery, understanding the pregnant psyche, understanding that you as their partner, even if you're their mom, their friend, things are going to change. Change always begets change. So it's important to read this if you really want to support the pregnant person in your life. The last book that I wrote is called Why Does My Kitty Still Hurt? It's made for OBGYN offices and midwife offices. It talks about why you have pubic pain persistent after pregnancy. It's a waiting room book. Nobody's going to read a book about pubic symphysis pain. So I made a cute little cartoon book about kitties, and it features Beef that a lot of people have seen on my podcast. I showed you Mabel's our new addition, but Beef is always chiming in to help pregnant women. These make great sprinkle gifts, all of these. So again, these books were written, all three of these were written with the mindset for a second, third, fourth pregnancy, with women that really need to still get stuff done. They need to take care of their other kids. They need to function. They need to work out. They need to be able to do their job. These are the flat versions of reading. And a lot of people can learn from a book, but over the last couple of years, I've developed courses because I teach across the country. I teach patients when they're in my office of literally taking their hand or their partner's hand and showing them. I let them record what I'm doing so that they can be empowered to do it themselves. Incidentally, I had the cutest moment, one of the cutest moments in 24 years. And I know it was for religious reasons, but it was so cool. And I want to talk about it just really quick. I'm going to take on a little tangent. I walked into a room, as I do every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and I introduced myself to the pregnant patient, and I went to shake her husband's hand. And because of religious reasons, when I put my hand out, he went like this. Totally respect that. And so I went about my exam, and this particular patient had some extreme lower abdomen pain, which is kind of scary. She was only like 16 weeks, but it emanated from along the side, and she had some issues and knots. Almost like if I pulled back here, the issue was actually back here that was pulling her abs because it was a hip flexor issue. She sits all the time because of her job. So I wanted to show him, and I realized he was not going to let me touch him. So I literally said, hey, I would love to show you this. I'd love for you to feel this, of the pain that your wife is having, to validate her experience and sort of anchor them as a couple of her struggle, that he could support her. And he looks at her and he says, my sweet, do you mind if I let her touch me? And she was like, of course. But it was so sweet. He honored his wife. But me in my head, I'm like, I'm a dork. I'm not going to do any harm to you. But at the same time, I wanted to respect their religious differences. But it was such a sweet moment of bonding, of permission and consent. And he allowed me to touch him, touch his hand, move his hand, show him how to touch her, get feedback from her. And it was a really bonding and healing moment that he felt like he could help. It was so cool to watch, and I was really honored to have that experience. But going back, he got this book so he could help her better. But again, I don't expect a lot of partners to read this, but if you're having challenges with that, or if you are a partner that really wants to help and it's expanded on this, it's a great gift. Again, with my courses, the courses are not flat. A lot of people are visual learners. So you're going to see the videos of the stuff I talk about in here. You're going to actually see me doing it, and you can always ask me questions. But if you see my courses about pubic pain, about rib pain, all of it, fourth trimester I just talked about, I just launched that. I not only have courses, but I have a subscription that you can pick and choose from a pantry of the information that you need so you can have the best pregnancy ever. So again, I gave you a little bit of sampling of why this is bad. I want to give you information. I want you to understand this so you're not surprised, so you're not scared. If you're watching this at 2 a.m. and you're like, why does my pubic region hurt? I don't understand why. Is this normal? I'm scared. I can't call my OB, or my OB tells me this is normal. I want to be the person in the street saying, this is totally common. This is not normal, but this is totally common. Don't be scared. Let me explain why this is happening and what you can do. That's what I'm dedicated to this year. Through my books, again, on Amazon, my courses, any way I can help you guys, I really want to do it because I want you to be less scared. I want you to be more empowered because there's so much you can do. Please don't listen to your OB or your midwife who just brushes you aside and tells you it's completely normal and there's nothing you can do. The only thing you can do is deliver the baby. It's not true. It's not true. It's not true. Please, if you're an OBGYN watching my show, mad respect, midwives, but please, if you want to challenge me, if you want to see my stuff, if you want to be open to a new way of being, that your patients are going to get better results, they're going to feel better, they're going to be happier, they're going to be able to move, which is going to make their delivery a lot easier. Love to talk to you about that. If you're an OBGYN or somebody in the birth field, please reach out to me because I would love to correspond with you, to help you, to learn from you, to hopefully you learn from me. But I am batshit passionate this year about stopping the bullshit agenda, the misinformation, and not telling women that this is predictable. This is common, but it's not normal. Let me help you this year. Have the best pregnancy ever. Again, this has been Dr. Brandie with Pregnancy Pain Sucks. Let's fix it this year. Follow me on all platforms so I can give you more information. Check out my courses online and, of course, on Amazon or my books. Have a great week and enjoy your pregnancy more.